1, 2, 3, yeah! This is Amari Purple Talk. Yes. Alright, I was supposed to read the book this week. I did read the book. I'm almost finished with the book. So there's no review on the book this week. The review will be next week. But I'm going to have some quick thoughts on the book. But we're going to have a good show anyway. Here we go. 1, 2, and welcome to episode 89 of Amari Purple Talk, a podcast where I share my thoughts on the Prince musical singularity. I'm Richard Cole, Imaginationist, comic book myth builder, and the Vic Sage of Funk. Thank you once again for tuning in. Please leave your comments in the comment section below, and please download on your favorite podcast platform. If you're listening on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And please continue to send your questions or topic suggestions for Amari Purple Talk. And how you can do that is by clicking the link in the show notes below, either the website link for Amari Communications or by following me on Twitter at RichardCole_now using the hashtag Amari Purple Talk. And your topic or question might just be read in a future episode. All right, and with that out of the way, we have a lot to cover, so let's get started. All right, so I am still reading my advanced copy of Prince and the Parade Sign of the Times Era Sessions by Duane Tudhal. I thought I was reading in the middle of July and was like, oh, okay, cool. I got a few more months to go in this book, and I'll be done with it by the end of the week. Come to find out, I was only reading up to July 1985. So show you the magnitude of Prince's work ethic and the journey that this book takes you on, man, is heavy. So actually at this point, as of taping of this show, I am like around February of 1986. About February 1986. The Kiss single has just dropped, and just preparations for the movie and everything. But again, that's as far as I got. So by next episode, I will have a non-spoiler review of the book. So if you don't like having things spoiled, this will be the episode for you. So just a few quick thoughts on the book. This, as well as the previous volume regarding the Purple Rain era sessions, these are must-have books in your collection. So if you're a massive Prince fan, or you're just getting into it and you want to kind of supplement your historical knowledge, these are the books for you. And I would say more so than most Prince books. And that's not to say the other Prince books are bad. Maybe I'll do a rundown of some of my favorite Prince books over the years. But definitely, if you're going to amass a collection, these are the two to have. The Parade Sign of the Times era sessions, it puts Prince in the most accurate context because the focus is just on the music. So there's great stories in it too. You'll enjoy a lot of the anecdotes, certain things that happened during a certain period or even on a certain day. It's not just recorded this song on this date, blah, 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 blah. I mean, you get context, you get background information, narrative in a lot of cases. So you will definitely have a good time reading this book. And again, since Prince built his life on this mystique, and we'll never get a biography or a film or documentary that will ever give you 100% of the picture,
having this book as well as the previous volume will give you more of an accurate context, because this is definitely where the man lived, and that is definitely through his music. So just on that alone is why you should get that book. Like I said, I'm up to February of 1986 at this point. But the first year, 1985, takes you on a serious journey. Parade is the connective tissue for this book, I believe. Recording and filming the movie and putting the album together. It's more of an extensive process in this volume than it was with the Purple Rain era sessions. With that, this is superstar Prince at that time in the pre-Purple Rain. So it was basically tour, recording for a movie, but it was a movie that he didn't have full control over. There was still a director, the management, Warner Brothers. There were other factors involved. So with Parade, you had more hands-on involvement with Prince. So just on that alone, there's even more information. And again, it really paints the picture, puts you right there in the studio or wherever he is at any given point in the book. So again, more extensive process than Purple Rain. Another quick thought. I better understand the context of including a lot of the Prince and Revolution era tracks on the Sign of the Times Super Deluxe Edition. Maybe with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 songs that were on those vault tracks. But in all fairness, Parade had already been sequenced and then mastered, and that's pretty much at the point where I am. So everything after, as early as January of 86, roughly, they're Revolution appropriate and probably wouldn't really go on to a Parade Super Deluxe, although there are a lot of things that can still be included in that as well. So we'll probably discuss that when we get to like a full spoiler review when the book is actually released. So one last thought. This totally works if you're a fan of both eras. You will gain insight on the opposite era. So if you're more of a Parade era fan than Sign of the Times, there'll be a lot of information on Sign of the Times that you will enjoy. And vice versa. If you were just a fan of Sign of the Times and maybe not a fan of Parade, definitely, before you get to the 1986 and the things that lead up to the production of Sign of the Times, you will definitely have a good time reading this. Because it's not just about Parade. I mean, you had other things going on. Romance 1600, you had the family, Maserati. I know I've seen a couple of things on Maserati that it was like I wanted to comment on, but it's like, I don't want to spoil the book. So we'll maybe touch on some of it next week with the non-spoiler review, but definitely there will be a full spoiler review that I will produce upon actual release of the book. Yep, so tune in next week, Purple listeners, and we'll have that non-spoiler review of Parade, Sign of the Times era sessions, 1985 through 1986 by Duane Tudhal. Go ahead and pre-order that book when you can and check it out. All right, and now we're going to actually move on to our topics for today. And our first topic comes in courtesy of Christopher Hendricks. And this was something that he posted on one of the fan pages on Facebook. And I asked him if it was okay to cover this as a topic. He said, Q. And his post goes, although Prince worked on the concept for the Dawn movie, and album throughout his career, the only track that surfaced was Welcome to the Dawn, which was on the Truth album in 1996. Or 1998. In retrospect, how many feel the early 90s battle with Warner Brothers over his masters and eventually the doors he opened for other artists in the industry can now be considered the dawn he began speaking about in 1984? And basically, for a lot of newbies to the Prince world, or if you don't have an extensive Prince record collection or even movie collection for that matter, starting with Purple Rain, with the end of the film as well as the liner notes to the album, you will see the words, "May you live to see the dawn." And this had been sort of a catchphrase for Prince all the way through the 90s. He ended the majority of his films with that. And again, it also turned up in the liner notes of other albums as well. So again, it first appeared during the Purple Rain era, both album and film. At one point, it was thought to be a sequel to Purple Rain by many fans during that time. I know kind of as Purple Rain ended and you had May You Live to See the Dawn, then it was like, oh, it must be a sequel coming, And that was pretty much the rumblings until around 86. There were sort of tidbits planted in various music magazines that Prince was planning a film called The Dawn, but it wasn't going to be a sequel to Purple Rain. It was kind of meant to be a sort of West Side Story style film. Some rumblings say that even Prince wasn't going to be in the movie, he was just going to direct it. And you would have had like the family and Maserati sort of being the stars of the film. But of course, the family split up. And even though there was still just Maserati at the time, I guess it was just ideas he kept working on. But it went through a number of changes over the years. It remained in sort of development hell in favor of Graffiti Bridge. And then eventually it started to resurface as just a sort of concept album for Prince personally. And this was like right around the 90s. There were several songs, although at this point, that have not been confirmed to have been for that project, except for the track Welcome to the Dawn. And that was on the Truth album that was released in 1998 with the Crystal Ball set. It will get its own standalone reissue for Record Store Day on vinyl for the first time. So the tease in the liner notes of that album was that this is an acoustic version. The full version would come out on an album called The Dawn. This album was also teased in the liner notes of Emancipation. Like I said, there's rumors of several configurations, several song sequences, but again, nothing officially confirmed as of this date. But kind of towards the late 90s, the idea of an album or a film or anything, it just it went away. So the question that Christopher was bringing forth, especially the final part of this topic, let's see. In retrospect, how many feel the early 90s battle with Warner Brothers over his masters and eventually the doors he opened for other artists in the industry can now be considered the dawn he began speaking about in 1984? And if you go back to, say, the Gold Experience, at least on that album, where it's not may you live to see the dawn. It actually opens up with welcome to the dawn. And yeah, this was during his battle with Warner Brothers for industry independence. So did it go from sort of like a concept for a film or an esoteric concept for an album to sort of a rallying cry or mission statement for his artistic independence? And by kicking open that door, yeah, there are a lot of artists that in some way, shape, or form, especially a lot of hip hop artists, it's about ownership. You know, there are a lot of artists that may not be on the top of Billboard charts or, YouTube superstars, but they own their own content, which is something that is very important today. While we have a lot of artists that do have that autonomy when it comes to their intellectual property, we're seeing situations now where big stars are selling off their IP for hundreds of millions. So yeah, I do believe that it was a change in the mission statement. I think it went from being a movie concept to an ideal that held true for his own quest for independence, as well as providing a sort of creative inspiration for other artists, through his struggle or what he was saying on record at that time. And I don't know. I mean, I would have loved to have heard what The Dawn as an album would have been. I have a feeling it probably wouldn't have been 100% about just business independence, but sort of spiritual independence too. And we know kind of during the late 90s, there was sort of a, maybe not necessarily a change, but a shift in philosophies. So maybe some of the basics didn't hold, or maybe the basics held, but the overall concept, we'll never know. But me personally, I feel that, yeah, I think it did change from movie concept to, like I said, a sort of a rally or a battle cry or mission statement, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, thanks, Christopher, for definitely sending that in or allowing me to utilize that as a topic. I hope that answered your question. But what's most important, what do you guys think? Do you think that you would have preferred The Dawn as a film or film soundtrack, concept album? Or do you believe that once he fought for his independence or began fighting for his independence, once he started saying welcome to the dawn, that was it, that put a punctuation mark on it? Leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. And now we're going to move on to topic number 2. And this one is from David Gillespie. And this was more of a, I guess, a blueprint or a comment as opposed to a question. But he writes, honestly, the Prince Estate should have a plan to do the following every year. And he breaks it down with Q1, an originals type CD of material Prince wrote for others. Q2, a vault CD of unreleased material that won't fit on Super Deluxe releases. Q3, a protege release and or a shelved CD. And then Q4, a Super Deluxe version of an album. Now, with the amount of stuff they need to release, they need to start pushing it out the door quicker. Otherwise, they will be at it for the next who knows how many years. All right, David, thanks for allowing me to utilize that as a topic. And yeah, I feel that the estate has a plan. They, in interviews that Michael Howell has given recently, kind of from the promotion of the Sign of the Times Super Deluxe set to a couple of interviews kind of at the start of this year that have been conducted with sort of overseas podcast and publications. It does sound like they have a plan in place. But kind of like the next Star Wars film or MCU movie, they're going to keep things very, very quiet and hold things very close to the chest until they're ready to release them. I think that the estate is going to stick to a 2 or 3 release a year schedule. In other words, one special album, one reissue, and then like a super deluxe edition. Now, I do think that David's suggested format would work if the estate were not 100% dependent on the Sony / Warner Brothers distribution plan. So basically, Sony has the license for everything classic and 95 on, with the exception of the movie soundtracks, of course, for United States distribution, where Warner Brothers will facilitate distribution for the rest of the planet. So with that being said, the estate would have to adopt a more direct-to-consumer model that works alongside the Sony Warner Brothers distribution plan. And if you're worried about oversaturation, it won't oversaturate the market, but it would give more options to the core fan base. And if you've listened to Amari Purple Talk since practically its inception, what I like to do for a lot of, there are a lot of people that are just fans of music. It's like, oh, great, Prince has a new album, CD, super deluxe edition, and they just want to buy it and just listen to the music. What happened in the studio, why this was in the vault. Some of those things don't really matter to some. But there are a lot of us out there like myself, or people that are like musicians that are fans of Prince, you name it, or fans that are well versed in what the vault means, and anxious for everything in the vault to be released. So for this show, what I try to do is provide examples of other fan bases. So you get an idea of when you see someone on social media that goes, oh, I want the estate to release everything in the vault. Like, I want it now. Or, versus some of those, I have everything in the vault and nothing will beat the sound quality of what I have of everything in the vault. So why should they release that? Ha ha. Well, again, there are a lot of us in the Prince musical singularity, and for the sake of peace and harmony, I try to provide some context for those that are trying to either A, understand what's going on, or B, try to say, hey, be patient, because there are estates or even artists that have full control of their master recordings that they've been at this for 20, 30 years, and we're just in year 5 and the dust hasn't even settled yet. Usually I bring up the big 3, which is Hendrix, Zappa, and Dylan. Thought I was going to say aliens, androids, and wizards, didn't you? But anyway, but usually I throw those three in because I think that's sort of the epitome of, they've been at it for 20 plus years. The fan base is happy. And I mean, you're talking about, hey, there have probably been fans that have been there in real time with all three. And here we are in the 21st century, and they're still rolling out a box set here and there. They're still rolling out a compilation. Just earlier today, there's two things that the Hendrix estate. One was sort of a reminder of the compilation Both Sides of the Sky that was released like about 2 or 3 years ago, I think. But they, on their Twitter, kind of just as a reminder, it was like the video advert for it. And there was something else that dropped today. It's on YouTube. And it's a concert from February of 1970. And wow, this is a audience recording. It wasn't anything from the soundboard, or nobody, in Hendrix camp planned to record that show. But the only recording of this that exists is something that a fan in the audience recorded. So with the Hendrix estate, and I'm using this as an example in relationship to David's comment, if you go on their website, Experience Hendrix, and you go to their store, and of course, in addition to the t-shirts and hoodies and other items, of course, there's, CDs and vinyl. And in addition to all of the official stuff, Are You Experienced, Electric Ladyland 50th anniversary CD or vinyl, they have a subsidiary on their website. It's called Dagger Records. And Dagger Records is for items that are really just for the fans. This is stuff that they were mostly demos, or they were audience recordings of certain concerts that had been circulating in the bootleg circuit for Hendrix fans for decades. But in some cases, I guess they made a deal with the original owners of these audience recordings. Some kind of deal. I don't know if they got paid or not, or what type of payment or compensation. But Dagger Records now releases these said audience recordings. And again, like I said, it's not the best material, so it wouldn't work as a mainstream release. So you wouldn't see this so for example, originals, the quality in which that was released. Some of this stuff on Dagger wouldn't be even up to par for that. But there's a fan base out there that are deep dive Hendrix fans. And instead of paying a ridiculous sum of money to some cat, as Prince would say, some mamma jamma, charging $200 for this recording, and it's not even the best quality, then, for $11, $12, whatever, you can order this CD, and it goes directly to the Hendrix estate. And again, it's for the fan base. So their release schedule isn't as frequent, but there is enough material on there to where you can kind of peruse it and check it out. And, probably some stuff released in between a lot of the box sets and live albums and compilations and reissues. it's there for the fan. Even Zappa's, you know, Beat the Boots, which is on, you go to his website. And in addition to ordering the classic albums or the majority of his catalog, even though there was a documentary that was just released, which I purchased on Amazon digitally. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. But that's out. The soundtrack to that is out. So I hope when Netflix does the Prince documentary, I hope there's a soundtrack that is just as extensive as the Zappa one is for the Zappa documentary on Amazon. But with that being said, go to the website, check out all the official stuff. But even during Zappa's lifetime, he created this campaign called Beat the Boots. So what he did was take a circulating bootleg and just, since he had the original recordings, copy it down to the exact track listing. In a lot of cases, even the artwork itself. Hey, it's my material. Put it out myself. I make the money. And this still goes on today. So if you go to his website, you can check that out. So when I say that they should have, or the Prince estate should have, a direct-to-consumer model, those are sort of the templates that they can sort of use as an example to facilitate what David is suggesting. So a 4-quarter release schedule. And how that would work? Well, let's try quarter 1. The estate releases a direct-to-consumer project, both download and physical media online purchasing option. So mainly like a live album that's not attached to a super deluxe edition. And this is mainly for the fans. Saving legendary historic performances for major mainstream release. So something like the Ultimate Live Experience, for example. That would work as a mainstream release. 1983 benefit show where Baby I'm a Star, Would Die for You, and Purple Rain were first debuted. Mainstream. Maybe even 1984 birthday show. Again, mainstream. Birthday show Detroit, which, I'm going to gamble on the fact that that would probably end up on a Parade Super Deluxe edition. Mainstream. But that one circulating recording from, say, 1988, make that available direct to consumer off the estate's website. It's just for the fans. Mainstream would be like, well, what's that show all about? What's this? Why do they want to hear that show? Forget all about that. This is just for us. So when you get on the Prince.orgs and the Twitter threads and Facebook and all of that, and you're like, yeah, that show from, 1992, the DNA Club. Oh, that was an awesome show. And we're all like, yeah, that was an awesome show. Then we should be able to go to the estate's website to purchase it. Like I said, either download or get a physical copy, CD or vinyl. Then you would have the second quarter. So let me break down the quarters. In a business, everything is done in quarters. So your first quarter is pretty much January through March. And then quarter 2 is like April through June or something like that. So that's how that's sort of broken down. So the beginning of the year, it's after the Christmas rush. Everybody spent their hard-earned money either gifting a Prince Super Deluxe edition or buying one for themselves. But you still want more Prince music, but, it's not economically viable for the estate to do it through Sony. and have a big to-do release, then, here you get a nice little $12 live recording, CD case, artwork, nice cover, maybe some decent liner notes. But it's a beloved show by many Prince fans, old and new, and it's just for us. But quarter 2 would be a major standalone project, reissue, vault album / compilation, plus record store day release. So that would be a little tricky depending on when record store day falls. Usually it's been in April, but this year it's June and I think July. So depending on when record store day falls. If it's later rather than sooner, then quarter 2, go ahead and drop a major standalone project. If record day is a lot sooner, then make that item available for record store day, but then after so many weeks have passed, make it available for everyone. But if you separate the two, again, major standalone project, reissue, vault album, compilation, whatever it is, mainstream. Record store day would then be items that, digitally we can do this ourselves now because we have a Sign of the Times, Super Deluxe, we've got Crystal Ball, we've got everything practically on CD, so we can make our own Camille, we can make our own Dream Factory. But there are those of us who love physical media and would love to have this on vinyl. But since it might not be economically viable for a big to-do mainstream release, then this is something you would drop on record store day. So like a Camille, a Dream Factory, something like that. Bam. Record store day. We've all got our vinyl, But then again, make this available afterwards on the direct-to-consumer site. Then that way, for those that want it, can get it. And then that way we don't have to hear about, well, I've got all the tracks and I can make my own Camille. Good. You do that. But this is for those that want it. Then we move on to quarter 3. And quarter 3 would be a big Prince Estate birthday release, direct to consumer, again, download and physical media online ordering option. And this could be a toss-up. It could be live recordings, compilations highlighting a particular year, vault tracks, originals, live album, whatever. And to make this one special, I would recommend using the artwork of Martin Hammett for the artwork. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, he was commissioned to do these illustrations or graphic drawings of Prince in every, commemorating every single era of Prince. Actually, his artwork is part of Hit and Run phases 1 and 2. So that artwork represented both of those. The remaining artwork, which is like covers like For You on up to the phase 1 and 2 artwork. Then to make it special for that birthday release, and just for this third quarter release only, is utilize. So if the one representing Controversy, then if there's a particular live recording to commemorate that era that didn't make it on a Controversy Super Deluxe, or a special DVD documentary on the Second Coming, along with the CD, DVD of that particular show, then anything that's circulating, that's popular amongst the fan base, then use that. Or, certain vault tracks laying around, whatever, anything goes, but it would be a special Prince Estate birthday release, direct to consumer, with download and physical media online ordering, with artwork by Martin Hammett for the covers. And then you get to quarter 4, and then that is reserved for your big super deluxe edition. You drop it in September. It's in time to buy right away. You can do your Christmas shopping early for that special Prince fan in your life, whatever. But that would be the big budget, blockbuster, Avengers, Star Wars, big time release. And that one goes for all the marbles. So again, just to kind of recap, quarter 1 would be a state direct-to-consumer release. Quarter 2 would be a major standalone project, reissue. You can even throw in some of the related artists, maybe Paisley Park. You can, if you don't want to do a Prince release, do a reissue with the Family, do a reissue of the Time, Vanity 6, whoever, Jill Jones, Maserati. Quarter 3, just kind of a special birthday release. Again, anything goes, live album, compilation, vault tracks, originals, whatever. Artwork by Martin Hammett for the covers, and then quarter 4 super deluxe edition. So yeah, thanks, David. That was a pretty great topic to send in. I had fun kind of thinking about it, reconfiguring it. I think it's a great idea. I think that anybody that has the ear of the estate should consider doing this. I mean, you already have the website model and you're already selling product, but it's all mainstream product. But if it's something that's not in violation of whatever agreements you have with Sony or Warner Brothers, but hey, it's your music, actually. You can do what you want with it. And like I said, again, the plans that you already have in place, whether it's super deluxe editions, reissues, by all means, yeah, we're there to drop our purple ducats on it. But there's a lot of stuff in that vault that should see the light of day that may not necessarily be targeted at the mainstream audience, or, usually it's the mainstream audience, but it's really the mainstream audience that are just audiophiles. So in other words, yeah, buying a Prince Super Deluxe Edition, they'll be buying the Beatles Super Deluxe Edition next week, or they'll be buying Willie Nelson's box set next week. It's for the serious record collector, along with the serious core fan base as well. So you already have that model in place already. But again, for the deep dive fan, I think it would work. So again, if anybody has the ears of the estate or the ears of Michael Howell or something, have them consider that. And I think it would be a lot of fun, especially the direct-to-consumer. Check out my video on YouTube, my CD vinyl haul for March of 2021. In that, I talk about the Jimi Hendrix Baggies rehearsal sessions. That was one of the CDs I purchased that month, and that was from Dagger Records. And it's great. It's Jimmy and Billy Cox and Buddy Miles, and they're putting together the band of gypsies, and they're getting their rehearsal on. And this wasn't done in a major record studio. This was them kind of secluded out somewhere and trying to work it out. But, if you're used to Prince rehearsals and the quality of that, then yeah, definitely this is on par as well. So check that out, and you can kind of physically see what I'm talking about when I say that the estate should adopt a similar model to that. So by all means, check it out on YouTube, Amari Communications channel, my CD vinyl haul from March 2021. But what's most important is, what do you think? Do you think this would be a great idea? You know, especially if you want even more Prince product. It's like, cool, we get the mainstream releases and we're happy. But, you know, sometimes you do want that live recording, or you read a Uptown or Controversy magazine from back in the day, or the Vault book from back in the day, or even the Duane Tudhal books, you know, and you read about a particular track, or you read on a particular day he did this concert, and you know that that's circulating, but you want a physical copy of it. You know, leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. And now we're going to move on to our main topic. And this sort of inadvertently piggybacked off of last week's regarding Morris Day, the time. The debut album is getting a 40th anniversary reissue. And that will be dropped in July. So, kind of early in the week last week, Morris Day on his Twitter and all of his social media got on and let everybody know that he was not included in any of the planning for this reissue. We discussed what the track listing was. While I was initially excited about it, my hopes were that it was going to be remastered. That was not indicated in any of the press releases. So that kind of fueled a little doubt, even though I did put the pre-order in. The bonus disc, it's just the singles, or the 7-inch edits of the singles that were released. So there's no vault tracks, no bonus tracks, or no live bonus disc or anything like that. So those kind of gave me a few apprehensions, but I thought I would just kind of keep an open mind and just wait till I got it in hand and, you know, make my judgments at that point. However, again, around, I can't remember what day, Tuesday maybe, but this is what Morris Day had to say. Now, this did get resolved, and we'll get to that in a minute. I just want to read the initial reaction by Morris Day, and this is on his social media. So apparently, Rhino Records, a division of Warner Music, is reissuing The Time 1981 debut LP, celebrating 40 years. Interesting enough, no one from Rhino or Warner Music thought it was a good idea to reach out to me or any of the fellas regarding this reissue. I got a serious problem with that. Let's see now, or let's see how this plays out. Okay, so that was his initial reaction upon hearing the news. Like I said, this dropped after I dropped this episode. I mean, I don't think anybody's listening to from the time. I hope they're listening to Amari Purple Talk, but it also made the rounds in social media as well. So it wasn't just last week's episode. But apparently he was made aware of it, and this had been circulating for a while, and they didn't think to include him. Now, there's a lot that I'm going to have to say about that, because I think that was pretty messed up on the part of Rhino Records, Warner Brothers. I don't know how involved the Prince estate is. Like I said, we'll discuss this a little bit later. But yeah, from what Rhino Records distributes in terms of reissues and box sets, like I said, we're gonna get to it in a minute. But yeah, it was seriously whack that they did not include Morris Day or any of the time, not even Jam and Lewis, on what to do with this 40th anniversary reissue. So later that day, and I'm trying to pull up the it looks like I didn't get the. I thought I posted the or pasted the response, but long story short is that later that day they did reach out to Morris Day. Further coverage was in a recent article in the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, where they did sort of a follow-up to this. So basically, before Warner Brothers reached out, in the comments section on social media, and this is reported by the Star-Tribune, where it says, Day further added comments in the section, so much could have gone behind the reissue of the Time album. Fun facts, commentary, mini documentary, reunion performance of said album, etc. But y'all dropped the ball on this one. Hashtag not cool. So, and it goes on in the article to say, after a discussion with Rhino Warner's representatives following his post, Day changed his tone. It says they reached out to both myself and my manager this afternoon and vowed to make this situation regarding the reissue right. He added, I was very pleased with the call. Stay tuned. And there's another comment from Day that I want to include in this to bring some perspective, because for years, it has been said that Prince did everything. And yes, he wrote the songs, or if you go to the copyright, if you do your research there, you see what Prince wrote, and Dez co-wrote some stuff, Lisa co-wrote something as well. But if nothing else, in addition to just supplying his voice, Morris also played the drums on most of the tracks and had some role in the co-production of the tracks. And this quote in the Star-Tribune, where it says, only in recent years did we, and that's him and Prince, only in recent years did we start saying that basically Prince and I did the whole damn album, Day said in a 2017 interview with Rolling Stone. The Time wasn't even together as a band at the time. We put the band together after we got the deal with Warner Brothers. Okay, so again, there are a lot of us here within the Prince musical singularity that either have an extensive knowledge of the record industry or a sort of basic knowledge of the record industry. And why I feel that Morris Day should have a bigger voice in the planning of not only this debut album's 40th anniversary, but the remaining Time albums as well, is this. Now, we don't know what the initial details are on the recording contract that Morris Day signed with Warner Brothers. We know that Prince had a production deal with Warner Brothers. And again, sometimes depending on how that language is written, that either gave Prince more control of Morris Day's contract with Warner Brothers, or Morris Day's contract was on a separate deal as an artist. But when it came to the production, Prince may have had more of the lion's share in this production deal. So again, we don't know what the legal language is in either of it, but basically, as an artist, with current copyright law, and there are some examples of artists like, I think there was the guy that was the cop in the Village People, one of the lead singer of the Village People, where in copyright law, 35 years after, say, said release or creation of that particular album project, those master tapes, after 35 years, automatically revert back to the artist. Now, this does beg the question. In this initial deal with Warner Brothers, when it came to The Time and Vanity 6, Sheila E.'s first album, Apollonia 6, there was no Paisley Park Records yet. That didn't come until 1985, which the family, well, first Around the World in a Day was the first actual Paisley Park release, then The Family, and then Sheila E.'s Romance 1600. And basically what Paisley Park was at that time was more what we call now in 2021 a vanity label. It wasn't really an actual record label. It was basically a production deal that says, well, this is, yeah, on paper it's Prince's label, but all the distribution, all of the logistics and everything else still goes through Warner Brothers. Wasn't until roughly, want to say, between 1987 and that $100 million recording contract that Paisley Park was at some point going to become more of an actual label and less of a vanity label. But again, like I said, we don't have all the legal logistics of everything, but just based on what we do know, that's kind of the gist of it. So as it pertains to Morris Day, since, again, there was no Paisley Park Records yet, does the Prince estate have control of the master recordings to The Time, Vanity 6, first Sheila E. album, The Glamorous Life, and the Apollonia 6 album? Does the estate get to retain those masters? And if they don't, then according to copyright law, we're now on the 40th anniversary of the release of the Time's debut album. So if the Prince estate doesn't hold it, does this put Morris in the position to do so? And the fact that Rhino Records and Warner Brothers are willing to meet, if that is the case, then that is why. Because yes, they have a legal obligation to it, because according to copyright law, he would be owner of those master recordings now, because he was signed as the initial artist. That's if, again, the Prince estate does not own those master recordings. Now, that being said, there was an interview with Michael Howe that discussed the possibility of releasing reissues by The Time and Vanity 6, or in lieu of releasing or reissuing The Time or Vanity 6, releasing an Originals 2. So, again, reading between the lines, you can pull out the possibility that they might not have that autonomy with those master recordings as they would, say, maybe The Family, or, Shirley's Romance 1600, or Maserati. It'd be interesting to see how this unfolds. But again, to kind of recap, as co-producer, he is entitled to at least the minimum of producer royalties, dependent on the original terms of the original contract Day signed, or based on the terms stipulated when Prince signed a production deal, allowing him the autonomy to produce other artists. So depending on what that legal language is, if Day is listed officially as a co-producer, he is entitled to at least the minimum of producer royalties. And that's not a bad chunk of change in the end. And again, we discussed copyright law. Even as artists, allows him a say regarding the master tapes. Again, depending on if the master tapes also reverted to Prince. If not, Day could possibly retain full ownership of these masters as artist/co-producer. And we beg the question, did Prince retain any associated artist masters prior to the creation of Paisley Park Records? And with all of that being said, the 40th anniversary of The Time's debut album should have been more extensive compared to other Rhino releases. Now, this Time debut album is being released in conjunction with the release of a wide variety of other album/box sets for Black Music Month. And they're running it all the way, I think, from June to July. So when I went to check out the Rhino Records website, like I said, they've been putting out remasters, and I mean actual remasters, whether it's Ray Charles or whoever. And I'm going to get to 3 prime examples. 2 are quite legendary in scope. As a side note, they're also releasing a Zapp and Roger 2 LP set. Basically, it's just a vinyl version of the Zapp and Roger Greatest Hits collection that had been on CD since like 1993. But again, that's kind of similar to what this time. There's no box set or anything, just this for Black Music Month. So one of the first examples I'm going to give about how extensive Rhino Records actually gets with a legacy reissue is this. Curtis Mayfield's first solo album, its 50th anniversary edition, features a second LP of bonus tracks new to vinyl. Now, they may have been issued on CD previously when they've had other anniversary or when they did a deluxe edition, but this is the legendary Curtis Mayfield album. If There's a Hell Below, We're All Gonna Go, that's on it, and a couple of other great tracks on it as well. But it's pre-Superfly. But this was, Curtis Mayfield 100% solo. Even when he was with the Impressions, I mean, he was writing deep, protest songs, introspective songs, you know, even around the same time as Bob Dylan. But basically, Curtis Mayfield was doing this before Stevie Wonder's 70s output, before Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. Curtis Mayfield had been representing the movement from day one and owns his own masters. So there's that. But getting back, what Rhino Records is doing, 50th anniversary edition, Curtis Mayfield, second LP of bonus tracks, new to vinyl, comes with a tip-on gatefold jacket and pressed on 180 gram vinyl at Record Industry. Guess that's the company that manufactures it, I guess. Includes a Curtis Mayfield turntable mat and an insert with new liner notes. The first 1,000 orders get an exclusive transparent yellow edition vinyl. Okay, so that's the 50th anniversary of Curtis Mayfield's legendary first solo album. The next example is Charles Mingus. And this is a live at Carnegie Hall. As I was checking out Rhino Records, a lot of their upcoming releases, there's quite a few artists, they're getting a sort of live at Carnegie Hall release as well. But this was kind of one of the examples I wanted to use for this episode. But yeah, Charles Mingus live at Carnegie Hall. This features around 80 minutes of previously unreleased material. Mingus' complete set at Carnegie Hall, played in its original order for the first time. So there's a single album of this that you can get, but this deluxe set has the original order for the track listing. The deluxe 3 LP set is mastered, lacquered, and sourced from the original tapes for maximum fidelity, pressed on 180 gram vinyl, and includes previously unseen photos from original photographer Costa Peterson, as well as new liner notes from jazz historian and producer Michael, let's see if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Michael Kosuna. I think that's how you pronounce it. But yeah, I mean, that's 2 legendary artists that are getting a deluxe treatment and anniversary reissues, both great albums to check out. And I know what some of you might be thinking. Yes, but those are, that's Curtis Mayfield and that's Charles Mingus, the time. I mean, Prince did everything. Well, yeah. And again, like I said, Morris Day was on the drums. But let me tell you about a little band. They once upon a time had a TV show. Kids loved it. I know I caught the reruns when I was about 9. I dug it. Got a couple of records. Kind of know their history a little bit. Yeah, they were kind of disrespected by the rock establishment. Still are disrespected by the rock establishment. But, they also had their songs written by the top songwriters in the industry. Jerry Goffin, Carole King, Neil Diamond. Heck, I think Neil Sedaka even wrote one of their hits. Boyce and Hart. Barry Mann, Cynthia Weil. Remember, they wrote some of the best songs of the rock and roll era. And I mean, like Shirelle's era and Phil Spector era and all of that stuff and the Drifters era and you name it. They wrote it. And here's this little band that you saw on TV called the Monkees. And guess what? If you go to their website and you check out the Monkees, you check them out. They got deluxe editions out the wazoo. Deluxe editions for virtually every album they put out. And even deluxe editions for the ones that nobody bought. So any of you out there that is in the time, who were they? And granted, again, like I said, I like the Monkees, but I know their history. 2 of them are actors. 2 of them were actual musicians. They fought hard for creative control over their music. They won that independence. They fought hard to prove that they can play live as an actual band. They won the right to produce and write their own album. They did. It turned out to be a hit, thanks to the TV show. But that set the ball rolling for them to say, well, hey, if I want Carole King to write this song, Carole King's going to write this song, and that's it. And again, they get huge disrespect, but they still have a fan base. And Rhino Records caters to that fan base. If I have one thing to say about them, they should go ahead and just reissue the TV show on Blu-ray, because it's ridiculous when you go on Amazon and people are charging $300 for the Monkees TV show. Y'all need to quit. Y'all need to cut that out. That's messed up. But like I said, box sets, deluxe editions. Oh, they got albums of vault tracks. I mean, people love this group. And like I said, I dug the TV show. I bought a couple of the albums and I enjoy it. From the Wrecking Crew, what songs that the Monkees didn't play on later albums, but those first 2, it was the Wrecking Crew, same people that played on everybody's record that wasn't a Motown or wasn't a Stax record. Everybody else in rock and roll, Beach Boys, that was the top studio musicians, or one of the top studio musicians in the top, rock era is the Wrecking Crew. And yeah, like I said, this group gets a box set. So check out what you get with that. So, the Monkees. And this is an album called, I think it's called Replay. Now, correction, the Monkees Present. And this was an album, Peter Tork left the group, so they was down to just the 3 of them, Mike, Mickey, and Davey. But this was another album. They wrote the songs themselves, or they had control over what songs to pick. So they had, some they did themselves, some they had other people write the songs for them. Wasn't a hit because the TV show was off the air at this point. But again, you talk to that fan base, there's some tracks on there that people love that's on it. There's a track called Listen to the Band. I actually pinched that title for something I did. But that was influenced by that. I dug that song as a kid. But that was a deep album cut that only the fan base knows. Wasn't even on the TV show. But this album wasn't their best, or wasn't as well known, or didn't sell as much as the big hit albums did. But check out what you get on their deluxe edition. The Monkees Present an expanded 3 CD box set, including the original album remastered. Here, let me say that one more time. The Monkees Present an expanded 3 CD box set, including the original album remastered. 2 extra discs packed with unreleased mixes, never before heard backing tracks, previously unreleased songs, and more. Includes a full color booklet featuring an essay and liner notes by Monkees historian Andrew Sandoval. Yes, the Monkees have a musical historian. They have their own Duane Tudhal. Let's just put it that way. Bonus 7-inch single complete with picture sleeve. This is the Monkees present. And the time can't get extensive, comprehensive reissue on the 40th anniversary of their debut album? Really? You know, this is get Allen Iverson practice? We talking about practice? Practice? Man. So, long story short, this is, you know, hopefully they'll work this out. You know, I'm holding on to my pre-order, but I have a feeling, because it's supposed to have been released, the tentative date is July. So I'm hoping that between now and then, they'll have changed that. If there can be, you know, if nothing else, you know, cool if you got the 7-inch edits as the bonus disc, but please add a third with a live performance, because that's the thing. You know, there are those of us that have seen the time unfold, and no pun intended, in real time. So we're aware, you know, we've seen them on the shows, you know, American Bandstand or Soul Train. You know, we've been to the concerts. We've seen what the original 7 can do. If you don't know what the original 7 can do, go on YouTube. There's a show at the Capitol Theater kind of around the time of the debut album, but better yet, there's the performance in Houston. There's also a performance in Minneapolis, right around the time of the Triple Threat Tour. You know, this was a band that was hungry. They honed their craft. And to me, you know, don't even think about comparing this band to the Monkees, because first and foremost, each and every member of the time were consummate musicians. You know, and even Jerome, a consummate performer, you know, that fit so well. You know, I mean, again, another pun, their synchronicity. I mean, they were synchronized as a unit. You know, you talk about group dynamics. When you put those 7 together as a group, they were unstoppable. And it's a shame their momentum got cut short, because I think, you know, had they stayed as that unit, and if they were able to say, even if they managed to kind of break away from Prince at that point, I think they would have had a good run for another 3-4 albums. You know, say they might have done 1 or 2 more with Prince. They could have done 2 or 3 more on their own, just based off the momentum, had they stayed together. You know, because that jump from the debut album to What Time Is It? And granted, Ice Cream Castles was the way that it was because Jimmy and Terry was gone, Monty was gone, you know, and the spirit and the energy was just no longer there from, you know, from Morris, or, you know, even Jesse for that matter. So, you know, to me, I would say, if you're going to compare it, I would say the Jackson 5, because, yeah, in the studio, it was the Funk Brothers that played all the records. And granted, you know, the Motown machine was writing all of the songs, but, you know, they had to go represent on stage every night, and their instruments were plugged in, their microphones were on, and it was that little rhythm unit of Tito and Jermaine, was that Johnny Jackson on the drums, Ronnie Rancifer on the keyboards, and they had to reproduce that sound on the records. And if you don't believe me, check out the Jackson 5 live at the Forum. 2 CDs. One was a concert from 1970. The other one was from like 72, I think, 71 or 72. But when you listen to that, that is the Jackson 5. And again, the band, no horn section, no extra keyboardist, no extra whatever. Tito on lead guitar, Jermaine on bass, Johnny Jackson on the drums, Ronnie Ransomford on the keyboards, reproducing the sound of those Motown records, and they brought the funk. And that's the same with the time. Yeah, Prince played on all the instruments or whatever. Yeah, granted, Morris Day was on the drums, but Jelly Bean had to replicate that on stage. Lisa probably played on something, and Dr. Fink soloed on something. But, Jimmy and Monty had to, represent on stage. And boy, did they represent. So by all means, like I said, if you don't know, or if you weren't there in real time, and if you're only like coming in and looking back and don't understand what's happening and why this is so important, then check those performances out and you'll see that, yeah, this band deserves more of a shine. And like something I said last week too, where, over time we've fallen into this cliche that if Prince was pulling the strings on everything, it always had to do with a female artist whose vocal abilities are questionable. And that's become a cliche, and it's become a joke. And believe you me, the time, the family, Jill Jones, Sheila E., they brought something a little extra to the table, vocal quality or musicianship. They brought something to the table. It's just the later years where you get your Carmen Electras and all of that, it became a joke at that point. It became a cliche. But at the same time, there was a Rosie Gaines, there was a Mavis Staples, there's a Shelby J, many others, to where, he was producing quality work on them that I encourage everybody to check out as well. Because again, that they bring the talent, they have the voices. Those voices can sing the Yellow Pages and it'd be funky. They could sing Row, Row, Row Your Boat and it would be funky. Why am I drawing a blank on the name? Shoot. Anyway, but yeah, later years, then it was back to quality singing. Like I said, from Rosie Gaines to Mavis Staples, Shelby J on, it's quality, it's strong vocals and producing quality work with that. But the roots of that, again, the time, or, Jill or Sheila E., the family, first-rate musicians, qualified to interpret the vision that Prince was putting forth through each and every one of those acts. Yeah, these aren't just puppets. They never were. Not to any of us in the fan base anyway. They never were. We dug it. Because, we've had our, where George Clinton, yeah, he was the mastermind, but Bootsy had a say, and Bernie Worrell had a say. You had Parliament, you had Funkadelic, you had the Brides of Funkenstein, Bootsy's Rubber Band, what Motown and Stax, Wu-Tang Clan, Digital Underground. We were used to that already. We were used to that aesthetic, to where it's a collective. It's, one cat may be the face or the figurehead or the main producer, but it was the talent of that collective that made having a Time work, having a Vanity Six work, having a Sheila E. work, or having a Jill Jones work, or a Maserati work. It was that collective, and we were excited that this collective was coming out of Minneapolis like that. So yeah, to me, definitely the time deserve a more respect on the reissue tip. Like I said, I didn't quite cancel my pre-order because, like I said, this all took place. I know, like prior to doing last week's show, there was the announcement. So did the pre-order then. Then Morris Day's response was sort of like, I think, that Tuesday afternoon. So the fact that they are going to talk to Morris and work it out, and I like to see it still come out, if that's the case. Even if they put it out as is, just because of logistics or economics, come out with a more extensive set later on in the year. Come out with that deluxe edition time debut album, just in time for Christmas, folks. I would like to see that, where we have Morris's input, where we have the liner notes, where the bonus material, like I said, if the Prince estate gives the okay to release a few things in the vault that may exist, and we now know that something does exist, folks. That was already spoiled already for those that have not read Duane Tudhal. Well, it hasn't come out yet, but for those of us with advanced copies, something had been leaked already. But let's just say that, the state might have something or two that they could put out on there. Yeah, so by all means, give Morris Day, Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, Jesse Johnson, Jelly Bean Johnson, Monty Moore, and Jerome Benton, give them the respect that they deserve. Give us a better deluxe edition. Work with these brothers. Give them what they're entitled to. Give them what they're due. Give them what they're owed. Whatever it is. But yes, by all means, definitely make this reissue right for them and for us as the fans too, so we can go out and properly support it. And let everybody know what you think. Leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. And that is going to end this week's Amari Purple Talk. Again, be sure to check out next week. I will definitely have the non-spoiler review of Duane Tudhal's Prince and the Parade Sign of the Times era sessions, 1985, 1986. And I want to thank you once again for sharing your time by listening to this episode. Be sure to also check out my Amari Communications YouTube channel. So we talk about other things on there. We're starting off with the Jacksons, but hopefully have some additional content on other stuff too. Could be music, could be comic books, could be comic book movies, but stay tuned. But right now, we do have some Jackson stuff up there for you to check out regarding their recent releases. And continue to support Amari Purple Talk by either purchasing Amari Communications merchandise with items including Amari Purple Talk t-shirts, mugs, and masks. We're not out of the woods yet, folks. So, if you need to restock up on your masks, get a cool Amari Purple Talk mask or a cool Amari Communications mask, help spread the word about a brother and his podcast and his YouTube channel and website and all that other cool stuff. Also, we have We Funk t-shirts, or you can just make a CashApp donation for any amount that you wish. Links are in the show notes or in the button in the Amari Communications channel banner on YouTube. So until next week, be safe, be peaceful, be wild, create your day, then create your life, and always keep it purple and on the one.